All right, everyone. I have 6 o'clock here on my computer, so we can go ahead and call together a call to order the regular meeting of the Winooski Liquor Control Board. It's 6 p.m. on Monday, April 4th. I'll ask that we start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councillor Oakleaf.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So first up on our agenda today, we have we don't have an agenda review, but I'll ask if anyone has any concerns about the order of the agenda before we go in.
Nope.
Staff would like to address a couple of concerns.
Can we do those as we move through the items?
That's fine.
Okay, great. We'll move on to section 3, regular items. First up, we have item A, approval of an entertainment permit for both Dos Arquivos LLC, doing business as the Archives, and for Four Quarters Brewing LLC, 1 yearly and 1 2-day extent permit. Are there any comments from staff you want to add at this point, Wendy?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hi. So good evening, everyone. So the Four Quarters Brewing, one of their locations is at 150 West Canal Street, and that would be the 2-night entertainment permit, and the 70 Main Street would be the yearly permit.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. Any questions or concerns from councilors on this item?
I have none.
Just checking our attendance. Any questions or concerns from members of the public? You can use the raise hand or chat feature on Zoom. All right, then I am looking for a motion to approve the entertainment permits for Dos Arquivos and Four Quarters Brewing as shown.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item B, we have a second-class liquor license 2022 renewals for Cheetah Enterprises LLC, doing business as Sammy's Quick Stop, Commodities Natural Market of Winooski LLC, and Walgreens Eastern Company Incorporated, doing business as Walgreens number 17485. Is there anything that staff wants to highlight on this item?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from councilors?
No.
I have a question. Do we know from the staff if there's been any concern or any, I presume you would have brought it up, but any issues in the past year with the permit or licenses for these establishments?
So what I do is I send them to Chief Audie and then Chief Hebert.
Okay, great.
And I wait for their
Prior
approval
to.
before.
Okay, great. Thank you for
Proceed.
confirming.
Mhm.
No further questions?
Thanks. Anyone else?
No.
All right, then I am looking for a motion to approve the second-class liquor license 2022 renewals for the 3 businesses listed on the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, up next we have item on for approval, item C, first-class, third-class liquor licenses 2022 renewals. I'll read these once and then the motion will refer to all of these if it's carried. So we have Asian Bistro Winooski Incorporated. We have BRGRW LLC, doing business as Grazers Winooski. Four Quarters Brewing LLC, first class at 70 Main. Four Quarters Brewing LLC, third class at 70 Main. John Ryan Post 1767. Our House Bistro LLC, Regular Veterans Association, Sour Hall Foods LLC, doing business as Wicked Wings, and SWJ Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Mule Bar. Any items that staff want to add to at this point?
Sure. So the one first class is for 150 West Canal Street. So they are just having a first class, and then 70 Main Street has the first and third class.
Got it. So there's going to be, so there are actually 3 requests for Four Quarters. there's a first class at 70 Main, a third class at 70 Main, and a first class at 170 Canal.
150, yes.
I mean 150. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions from counselors or members of the public?
No.
So long as there are no further concerns or items from the staff? Nope.
Great. Well, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the first class, third class liquor license 2022 renewals for the list of businesses shown on the agenda, with the addition of Four Quarters Brewing LLC, first class at 150 Canal Street.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to item D, we have an item on for approval, sidewalk permit 2022 renewals. This is for Asian Bistro, BRGRW LLC, doing business as Grazers Winooski, SWJ Hospitality, doing business as Mule Bar, and Our House Bistro LLC. Any items staff want to raise to council at this time?
Yes, so I've been talking with Eric regarding the sidewalk permits because on our current application, which we'll be revamping for the next season, there isn't any sketches, and it seems like there's some that are taking a larger area. So he's going to be working with John Rauscher regarding maybe some limitations on the sidewalk. Particularly there's one here that has a really large sidewalk permit. So going forward, I think we'll have a better handle on this. We'll have them include a sketch exactly where, I've been trying to do that with them, exactly where their sidewalk permit matches up, because that has to coincide with their outside consumption permit.
Okay, thank you for that additional information. Is this something that needs to be delayed before action can be taken in order to get those sketches?
No, I talked to, because we haven't, the first set that I came to you February 22nd, there were some sidewalk permits in there, and some had sketches, some did not, but talking with my discussion with Eric, he just thinks the whole, because I send those on to him and John Rauscher just for approval, but going forward for next season, we're going to develop a new application. So I gave him things that I would like to see on there, and then he has some ideas. So I think to make a clean slate for next year will be good. So at this time, these have been the same. I look back for a couple of years, and these are, except for Grazier's, which is new, but they've had the same square feet on sidewalk permits in the past few years than what's presented tonight.
Any questions from counselors on any of these items?
I definitely have a question, or I feel like I have a question about Grazers, considering that that isn't actually a renewal, is my understanding?
No, it is. So what happened
Okay.
with Grazier's is we just received the approval from Liquor Control in February after they submitted. So that was a 2021 license. So the council, I looked back, the council had already approved it. It was already signed, sent in. So technically this is a renewal right here
Okay,
for 2022. So they did have a license in 2021.
okay,
It was
But-
late in the season.
gotcha. So maybe was there a delay in them opening up?
There was a
Okay.
delay, and then they had a delay with the inspection.
Gotcha.
From Martin Provost, who's from Department of Liquor Control. So yeah, I was talking with the Sam Handy extensively about this, trying to make sure that it was definitely a renewal, and everything I looked back, it was approved by council.
Gotcha. And just because Tiny Tie that was in that space before, I don't believe didn't have any sidewalk space. So I wonder, and this might be hard to explain or describe, and this is where having a sketch would come in, but kind of how that might look. Are they gonna do similar like picnic tables and stuff?
Yeah, he did. He was one of the ones that, just because it was all new, that did submit a sketch.
Oh, awesome.
Um,
That would be wonderful to see, just to have context since it's,
Yeah, some
New in that
some
space.
included pictures. show it to you. So this was Grazier's, was his sketch.
Okay, so it'll be,
So I guess
That's
there was
helpful.
a bike path there, I mean, a bike rack
yeah,
that initially they wanted taken down, but that, was something that I had checked with, John Rauscher about, and we're not gonna be taking down the bike rack.
gotcha. Okay, all right.
Does anyone
That
else wanna see that? So going forward, it'd be nice to have a map for all of them.
Yeah,
And that, for grazers, that won't interfere with the crossing at the foot of the circle?
I don't believe so, no. I had given that to Eric, just showed it to him, just to make sure we were all on the
Okay.
same page.
That would be my only concern. Because it is a primary crossing area
Right.
from one side of the circle to the other.
Right, I would expect that Eric would make sure that it would not block the crossing, but also just leave room for
Yeah.
ADA access too.
Great, okay.
awesome. I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions from counselors at this time?
I do not have any, thank you.
I see that we have a question from one of our online attendees, Maggie. If you want to unmute.
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm Maggie, and I'm with Our House Bistro, and we have a sidewalk permit application up tonight that's in with a group of items. But I just wanted to point out on the sketch that's submitted with that, there's an alley between ourselves and the Monkey House, but that is part of the 36 Main Street, part of our leased space that we use for outside dining in that alley space. Traditionally, or for many years, Monkey House has put their picnic tables in front of that alley and that access. And we just wanted to make sure that because it's part of the 36 Main Street, that we put that in our permit, and that's the way it's written. But I wanted to make sure that's clear, that right now, Monkey House has a picnic table in front of that space. We'd like them to scooch down a little bit so that we can add a picnic table there.
Thank you, Maggie. Jenny or Wendy, is there anything that staff can add on this matter?
Yeah, I'd like to ask John Rauscher to add something and address this.
Sure. Thanks, Maggie. Yep, we chatted earlier today, so we'll make that request. I know we're working with downtown Winooski on making sure that the allocated space is defined so that everyone knows, how much sidewalk space they have for their seating area. So we'll work with you and downtown Winooski and Monkey to make sure that's clarified.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Maggie, for joining today. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? All right, hearing none, I would entertain.
I do have
Sorry,
a
go ahead.
follow-up question, Jim. So I don't see the Monkey House permit in this stack for outside space. Did that come to us earlier this year?
It did, February
Okay.
22nd.
And will this approval tonight have conflict with what we've previously approved?
I don't believe so, but I'm gonna leave that up to John to have that conversation.
So, given that we don't know, I wonder if it is best to pull out the Our House from the approvals so we can ensure that there's no conflict.
Or if I could make a suggestion, you could just direct staff that if there is a conflict, to bring it back to you.
It feels weird to approve something if we don't know for sure.
Well, I believe that the alcohol permits don't have a designated area, right? But the sidewalk permits do.
It's supposed to coincide with the outside consumption. The outside consumption that they've obtained, I just verified that their outside consumption was what they were requesting for sidewalk.
So that has an
Same
area
square
also?
footage.
It has a defined area?
It does.
And they do
Well, that's their
match?
outside consumption is their sidewalk.
Okay, do we have a sketch of that?
Of Monkey? No, I did not have one from Monkey
Okay,
House.
so then there could be a
Our
discrepancy.
house sent a picture, but,
Yeah.
So, I'd propose, that we consider removing our house approval from the, sidewalk permit renewals, and postpone it till the next meeting so that we staff have a chance to review that in relation to the Monkey House and hopefully resolve issues before we approve.
so can I just ask, is this their sidewalk permit or their liquor?
I believe that the stack that we're looking at right now
Because they have liquor.
is the sidewalk permit, is the
Okay.
one we're discussing at this moment.
Okay.
And it sounds like you said that they need to match.
And they do. Our house does match,
Okay, our house does match.
yeah,
The question is whether or not there's a conflict with Monkey House.
right. And initially, when I looked at it, I didn't think there was, but I can revisit that to give more a definitive answer.
I'll defer to the deputy mayor.
Well, John, do you know if there is a layout currently defined for Monkey House, and do we have enough certainty that that's not going to conflict or is going to conflict with? So basically, the issue is that we might have allotted space to Monkey House that will exceed the available space if our house is approved at the same time. Do you know whether we know that answer right now, or do we not know the answer?
Yeah, we don't know that. I know Eric and Meredith took some measurements. We have a square footage from Monkey House, but I couldn't tell you what the square footage is for Monkey House and if they overlap.
So we'd be in a situation where we would be bringing back potentially both businesses' permits for modification if what you investigate turns up an overlap that isn't reconcilable.
Right.
Okay. Maggie, I see you have your hand up again. Do you want to, something else you wanted to ask or share?
I just wanted to mention that we're happy to work together with the Monkey House to make sure that we've both got a space. I'm pretty sure it comes down to just placing our tables a little more carefully, and I don't think that we should have too much trouble with that.
Okay.
Do staff have any concern about approving permits now that might end up over allocating sidewalk permits? Sidewalk, like actual physical space on the sidewalk, is that something that we should not do?
I think going forward to to require a sketch, because there isn't any measurements of anything. I mean, it's just like a 16 by 16, but it doesn't, a definite map, I think, going forward would clarify exactly where we are, and we will not have this issue going forward.
Right. And as far as tonight, I would defer to John Rauscher.
Yeah, I think we can make an adjustment if we do find out that there's some overlap, with Monkey House and our house and everyone down there. I mean, everyone works pretty collaboratively, so if we do need to make adjustments, I'm not concerned if we have to bring it back.
Okay.
And just speaking as me, my concern is, postponing planning and utilization of space as we enter warmer months. This will essentially, if we do not include this permit and sidewalk permit and outdoor consumption license, we won't be able to, our house won't be able to do business out there until those are approved. That's the only concern I have. So with that said, I think there's two possible motions on the table, or two possible motions that could be put on the table. One is to approve all the sidewalk permits as written. The other would be to approve a sidewalk permit minus the one for our house, Bistro.
I'd move to approve all of them. I feel like the staff concerns are minimal, and it sounds like from the owner of our house that the resolution, if there is a conflict, will be amenable.
That's right. Motion from Bryn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up on item E, we have a first-class commercial caterer 2022 renewals for Southern Smoke Foods LLC at 150 Canal Street. Anything from staff on this one?
No.
Questions or concerns from counselors?
None?
No.
All right. I'd entertain any from the public. I'd entertain a motion to approve the first class commercial caterer 2022 renewal for Southern Smoked Foods.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item F, sidewalk permit, which is not a liquor license or does not have an accompanying liquor license. This is a new sidewalk permit for Scout and Company. Any comments from staff on this item?
No, I had sent this along to Eric and John Rauscher. I sent them all the sidewalk permits.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from counselors?
No.
No?
Members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the sidewalk permits for Scout and Company.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have item G on for approval, outside consumption permit 2022 renewals for Asian Bistro Winooski Incorporated, ERGRW LLC doing business as Grazers Winooski, Four Quarters Brewing LLC at 70 Main, John Ryan, number 1767, Our House Bistro LLC, Regular Veterans Association, SWJ Hospitality doing business as Mule Bar, and Sour Hall Foods LLC doing business as Wicked Wings. Staff, any items you want to share on this one?
Yes, so thank you for bringing it to my attention about John Ryan, the Regular Veterans Association. What happened was, when I look back, they were approved by the state, and I notified DLC that was denied. So that's why we had a renewal permit. I just went off of what was last year. It was approved. I just went through and just said they had outside consumption, so that's why DLC sent a renewal, and I sent the renewal to Regular Veterans. Now that I see that's denied, so I've notified DLC that it was denied, and I also contacted by email Lisa Graves, who is the contact person I have with there, and I asked her if she was able to appear tonight, since technically, since it was denied last year, it would be a new outside consumption this year, and she said she's unable to make it, so she'll hold off. And I sent her back another email just to clarify, does that mean to hold off for an outside consumption permit for the season, or just for tonight? So I did not receive an email back, so I am unable to be definitive about that.
Okay, so for a little bit of context on this, there was some discussion at our March 15th and April 5th meetings in 2021 on this topic that did result in the denial of this request previously. My recommendation, since we have, well, I'll hold off on my recommendation. I'm curious if counselors have any questions on this item. One potential thing is to pull this one out and approve the others and see if Lisa responds over email to have this considered at a future council meeting.
I think that's probably the best move forward. I believe that there are some questions about behavior in the past, and I think that should be addressed with Lisa here. So I'd be happy with pulling that out.
Yeah, and thinking that members of the public who might have concerns about this might not have noticed it because it was placed under renewals when it should have been under application. So I wonder too if we might get some more feedback if we put it off and process it correctly.
I have no concerns with putting Ingrid to a separate vote, removing it from this stack. I do have another comment.
Go ahead.
For Wicked Wings, for outside consumption permit, I'm just looking at the hours. This form makes it easy to lose content. Under the description of delineated area and as follows, the time period, the time frame is from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. So I just want clarification from staff around outside consumption permit and how that bridges with the state.
Yes, so I sent him an email and I have not heard back from him.
Okay.
I've actually sent him probably 2 or 3.
So I would also propose either council amending that time to match whatever is state approved. I don't even know if that's,
11.
yeah, I don't know what that is, but again, so not as to delay approval, but or consider removing this as well, so that the hours can be clear, adjusted.
That seems reasonable to me.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Same.
Any other comments or questions from councilors on any of the permits in this list?
No.
Any comments or questions from members of the public? Okay, so I think the motion that we would be considering that someone could make is approval of the outside consumption permits listed in item G with the exception of the regular Veterans Association and Sour Hall Foods doing business as Wicked Wings.
Can I ask a clarification? Is it preferred to pull out Wicked Wings rather than to amend it to, at this time, to a later start time?
Do you mean at earlier end time, like an 11 p.m. end time?
I meant, so 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., I meant instead to even like the start time. I do think both need to be amended potentially, but I'm even the start time. I don't know if by state law, the end time needs to change as well.
I can verify that
Okay.
with them tomorrow.
So-
I did have it at this meeting, just to put this out there, because the state wanted all the liquor licenses in by April 15th. So even though they don't expire until April 30th, they were hoping to have those in. So that's why I tried to get everything in for tonight, and these are all of them.
Okay. I would be comfortable amending it to 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. As an option.
And do you believe that more accurately reflects the state law?
I do believe it is closer. I don't know that it
Is right on. Yeah.
is exact, but I think it's more in line with what I would expect from the state law.
And I suggest that we make this into 2 different actions then on the part of the council. So first would be motion to approve Asian Bistro, Grazers, Four Quarters, John Ryan, Our House, and Mule Bar as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And the next motion could be to approve the Sour Hall Foods Wicked Wings permit with the modification that the hours of outdoor consumption will be 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. With that, that brings us to the end of our Liquor Control Commission. I would accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. We'll now convene as the City Council. It is 6:29 on April 4th, and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Oakley.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So first up on our agenda is agenda review. Are there any concerns on the order of the agenda tonight?
No.
No.
Next up, we have public comment. This is an opportunity to discuss any matter that is for members of the public to make any comment on a topic not included on tonight's agenda. If you're here for a topic that is included on the agenda, please wait until we reach that item. And I'd ask that those who are making comments state their name before doing so. With that, are there any members of the public who would like to speak at this time?
There's no one in the chambers, just to confirm.
Great, thank you. And I see no one on chat raising their hand, so we'll move on to item 4, our consent agenda. We have for our consent agenda, we have approval of the city council minutes from March 21st, approval of accounts payable warrant for March 31st, and payroll warrant for period 3-6 to 3-19. We have approval of the TA60 annual town financial plan and approval of the audit engagement letter. Unless there are any questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On next to council reports. I will start with Councilor Oakley. Would you like to go first?
Sure. The next infrastructure committee meeting will be the third Thursday, so April 21st. We have established the third Thursday as a regular monthly meeting at this point. So barring lack of agenda items or other holidays or inability for members to meet, we will have the third Thursday as our recurring infrastructure committee meeting. And that's all I have at the moment.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Bryn. Aurora?
At this point, there hasn't been a meeting for the Safe, Healthy, Connected People Commission, so I do not have an update for that.
Thank you. And Thomas?
I also have not had a meeting of downtown Winooski yet, so I don't have any updates to provide.
All right, thank you. From my end, there also have not been any commission meetings. I do believe there is a joint meeting in the works for Safe, Healthy, Connected People and Housing. Other than that, in the past week, I did provide testimony to the Senate Transportation Committee on a study for regional governance models for the Burlington International Airport. This is an effort being led by Senator Tom Chittenden, and had some supportive comments from the City of South Burlington and CCRPC. So it's nice to see that issue is being considered in the legislature. And I have no other updates from the City Council side, so we'll move to city updates.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor and council members. Happy to report that we have hired the next Human Resources Director. His name is Jesse Ackery. He has more than a decade of experience managing diverse groups of people in multitude of different industries. He takes great pride in making the workplace somewhere people can thrive, and the leadership team was really impressed by his energy and excitement and his experience in recruitment, especially. So we look forward to welcoming him next week. He'll start next week, which is terrific. Also happy to report that 355 Main Street is complete. People began moving in last week. There are 31 bedroom units. There's commercial space on the first floor and offices on the 5th. And we expect folks to continue to move in through May and June. Season passes for the Myers Pool are on sale now, and scholarships are available for Winooski residents. And the scholarship process has been made much simpler than it was in the past. So if you've looked at scholarships and found them too onerous, try again. We've made it much simpler. Registration for summer programs for Recreation and Thrive, including summer camps, that will start this week. So keep an eye on the city website, social media, and the school will likely send home information with students. And last but not least, you can join us. There's still time. The Community Services Department is actively recruiting for several seasonal staff positions, including pool director, lifeguard, and Thrive program assistant. And you can find more details on the employment opportunities section on the city website. So that's what I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Moving to our regular items. Item A, this is on for discussion and or approval. This is the update to the Inclusion and Belonging Charter. Yasmin, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Hi, everybody. Just here to continue the conversation and hopefully get this charter up and rolling so that we are able to start recruiting to form the commission. As you can see on the cover sheet, there were, a few wording changes that we discussed at the last meeting that needed to be updated, which I did. The mission statement has also been completed. And the only last piece that we had decided to table until a later time, so folks had time to mull over it, was the last piece about whether or not the equity ambassadors should have voting privilege on each of the other separate commissions. And if so, should that be universal or should it be something that each separate commission should decide on? And so I'm putting that forth to you to see what your thoughts are. As written, it states that they are only voting members of the equity and of the inclusion and belonging commission itself and not voting members of the other commissions. So if you would like for it to remain as written, we can just go ahead and do that. Just wondering what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Yasmin. It's great to see this update. Any questions from councilors or comments?
I have a couple. So I see as worded, so each separate commission may determine whether the ambassador position will be a voting member. Is how it was worded. I know we talked a little bit last time too about letting it be not the commission, but the ambassador to decide too, because it would be additional work to be a voting member on two different committee or commissions. I have this balance of I like the idea of giving options and opportunities, but I also worry about, the inequity of it being applied differently in for different commissions, especially if we are leaving it up to the commission to decide whether the ambassador will be a voting member.
Yeah, so you mean the inequality there, because equity would actually mean the opposite,
Yes.
which would
Yeah.
mean that we are actually allowing each commission to decide. And so if you do want it something to just be an equal, a universal standing among all of the different ambassadors, then that would mean the wording changed back to the original document, which basically said that they would only be voting members on the Inclusion and Belonging Commission. So if that's the will of the council, then I can absolutely go back to that wording change. But that's specifically why it was on here for discussion. I wanted to see how folks felt about that.
Awesome. Sorry I know.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is why this is the reason why this is a process. Do any other council members have any thoughts about that specific role, that specific piece in the charter?
Yeah, I think it's all up to the timing and what each ambassador feels that they have available. I still see the value in allowing them to be a voting member, but I think as long as they, along with their commission, are able to decide on that aspect, if they will in fact be a voting member, I think that would be a good way to move forward with it.
So I feel then the wording could say something like the commission members, we can have the word may, or the ambassadors may become a voting member of each separate commission if it is deemed appropriate by the ambassador and the commission themselves.
Yeah, and as long as it's a decision between the commission and the ambassador and not the commission making that before the ambassador comes on, I think that gives each ambassador the ability to decide what their bandwidth looks like and participate as much or as, I don't want to say as little, but not as much as they can.
I'd say whichever we choose, and I don't know that the language needs to go in here, but I would recommend that we just review it within a year's time, see if changes should be made.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that all of the charters are living documents and can be changed as needed. That's kind of the point of them. And so I agree that, this is the first go round of something of this nature. And I think we will be reviewing it as it goes and keeping tabs on how well it's going once it's established for sure.
I had a similar, I think I'm settling in a similar place, and I wonder if language as simple as each separate commission, comma, in consultation with the IMB ambassador, comma, may determine whether the ambassador position will be a voting member. I would hate for a commission to say yes, and the ambassador do not have the capacity or interest, and likewise have the commission say no without the chance for the ambassador to advocate for that. So I like this opportunity that's baked in. I wonder if that language would give the flexibility and the bidirectionality we would want.
Perfect, thank you. I just was just scribbling down notes to use them so that I can reflect that wording within the charter. So I think that's wonderful. I agree that, you know, allowing each ambassador to decide what's best for them is definitely the way to go. And I appreciate the back and forth between council, and it sounds like that looks like the direction we're going in. So I can absolutely make those amendments.
Perfect, thank you.
Can I bring up a separate question around some wording? Okay.
Yes.
So one thing I noticed that seemed like they might be in conflict with each other is so we have commission chairs will select a finalist to present to the council for appointment, which it does feel good to have commission chairs involvement, but then further on we have the Inclusion and Belonging Commission will determine ambassador placement. So those,
Yes.
yeah, I'm just trying to picture how those two things coexist.
So the ambassador placement is choosing which person is going to sit on which charter.
Okay,
Because on the application form, people will
Yeah.
identify what their first through fifth choices are.
Yeah.
So that's that process that is
Yep.
going to happen solely through the inclusion, through
So
the
the
inclusion
so the
commission.
chairs are just input onto general. They don't say who then
Yes.
goes to, okay.
Yes, and that is the current process with all of the other commissions within the city. The commissions select people that are then presented to council for appointment.
Yes. I'm just,
So it's maintaining the current structure.
yeah, so I'm just wondering if the chairs think they're selecting the individual people that go on their commission with this wording. When in reality, the Inclusion Belonging Commission is the one who selects the actual members to be the ambassadors.
Right, so that's why they're in two separate places on the document. The first paragraph is kind of the makeup of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission itself and how that process is started. And then the second paragraph that talks about the ambassador placementship is the actual role of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission. So if you'd like, I can, just to make sure that that's clear and delineated, I can talk about that being the, like, I can put some wording in there around the different roles of the commission chairs and then the different roles of the ambassador for the different roles of the Inclusion Commission at the beginning. Because this is really just in order to establish the positions initially.
So I wonder if specifically saying to establish the commission, we have that, but the commission chairs will select finalists, I think might be enough, because right now just saying a finalist.
Okay.
So commission chairs will select the finalists to present to council for appointment. And then, and I don't know if this fits in here at this point, but it's saying that after this is established, the Inclusion Belonging Commission will recruit new members as necessary, or something like that. Is that?
Sorry, can you just explain that again? I wasn't following.
So the Inclusion and Belonging, the Inclusion Belonging Commission, once it's started up, say a member leaves, they then would recruit a new member because they've been established at that point. We are only involving the commission chairs in the establishment? Or the
I believe that
chairs?
the commission chairs will always have a role in choosing the applicants and choosing the finalists that are presented to the city council. I believe that that is the current structure for all of the charters that are for all of the commissions that are standing. When there is a commission appointment, it's brought to city council. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding something?
That's correct.
So like for the infrastructure commission, when we're recruiting someone, it's just the infrastructure commission chair. It's not the chairs from all of the commissions. And I think that's my impression of where the confusion is coming from, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so, and I don't know if that, again, I was on the library committee, so maybe there's a slightly different structure there, but the committee as a whole worked on interviewing the different candidates and then presented the chosen candidates to council.
Yeah, and the way that all the other commissions will work is that when there are vacancies, city staff primarily runs the recruitment and advertising for that vacancy and collates applications, the staff liaison and chair, and sometimes the council liaison will be involved in reviewing all the applicants and choosing which to forward to council. So this is a different structure.
Okay.
In that we're expanding the search committee, but the general process is the same, where the city as a whole would be doing the recruitment. Councilors have done recruitment for commission members in the past as well. So I think, I see this is a slightly different structure, and we are basically ensuring that all commission chairs have a voice in this particular process, which would be different than how we run our other commissions.
Yeah. And that totally makes sense given what this commission is doing. I just want to, I guess, make sure that there isn't any confusion on the outset, but maybe I am just getting too into the weeds.
Thanks. I think that it's going to be interesting. It's going to be something that's new, and I think with something that's new, there definitely comes some wrinkles throughout the process. And I think that the feedback from the people who are going to be involved is going to be extremely valuable in making sure that we make this inclusive and make this available to everyone. And so I'm not necessarily worried about making sure we get it perfect right at the outset of the commission. Just kind of am hoping to continue the process to start to get the ball rolling to start filling these positions. Yes, I would definitely rather have this started than to hold up on little issues.
Are there other questions or comments from councilors that need to be addressed?
No.
I'm wondering, do we have any input from members of the public, either in Zoom or in the room?
Nobody in the room.
All right, coming back to you, Yasmin. So at this point, you have some more narrow direction on language. Do you need another round to do edits and bring that back to us, or do you feel like you have a clear sense of what changes need to be made in order to approve the charter?
Well, I absolutely have written down the changes in the wordings very specifically to what needs to be made. And so I guess that would be up to the council, to decide whether or not they want to go ahead and approve it. And then I will make the necessary changes, or if you'd like to see another draft.
So to my fellow councilors, we could hear those exact wording changes and decide to approve an amended charter tonight, or we could wait and have those changes brought back in a future agenda on the 18th. Does anyone have a preference?
I know that Yasmin and I think everybody else want this to get started. So if Yasmin, if you want to read the language that you've written down, I'd be happy to move forward with that.
I agree with Thomas.
Yes, I would prefer to approve it tonight.
That's great to hear. It looks like Yasmin's trying to get off mute and will read us the language. It's always fun to edit on the fly.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yasmin, do you want to type the language in the chat? Would that count?
Right, she says sure. So we will just pause rather than recessing. We'll just give you guys a couple moments here. Guys, if you need more time, let me know. We can return to this item if you want us to.
I'm just wondering, I can type it into the actual document and save it and then read it to you. I'm wondering if we want to just take a quick like 5-minute recess or something like that so I can get that typed up. So we're not holding everybody on the camera.
All right, that sounds good. We'll take a, I'll call a 5-minute recess at 6:50 p.m. now. We'll reconvene at 6:55 and resume on item A when we come back. See you in 5 minutes. You, Yasmin, if you want to share some updated language.
Yes, and so in the paragraph that is outlining the applications for appointment, I have switched the language to applications for appointment shall be reviewed in partnership between the commission chairs with support and guidance from the equity director. Commission chairs will then select a finalist to present to council for appointment. Each ambassador, in partnership with each separate commission, will have the ability to determine voting membership upon addition to that commission, and then the rest has remained the same.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Yas.
No problem.
Any comments on or anything else to say on that? Sounds like we're all good.
I'm comfortable with
Right.
it.
So then I would entertain a motion to approve the, I want to get the language right because I'm really excited. I would entertain a motion to approve the inclusion and belonging charter as proposed with the amendments just read by Yasmin.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I look forward to the recruitment process. Thank you. All right, moving on to item B. This is on for discussion.
Hey, Jim, if I may interrupt just really quickly, Daisy Echo does have a quick question she'd like to ask.
Oh, I apologize, Daisy.
That's okay. Thank you.
Congratulations for passing that. I think it's really wonderful. Thanks everybody for your work on it. My questions are, I was simultaneously making dinner, and my question, yes, could you walk through what support and guidance from the director entails? I'm particularly interested in what support entails.
In reviewing the applications, the applications have some different questions that are not the standard questions for applying for a city commission. So, they are a little bit more specific to the background and the pedagogy around equity and inclusion work. And so there is going to be an expectation that the folks who are being appointed as ambassadors, and especially on the Equity and Inclusion Commission, have some sense of what it means to be an equity ambassador, and what it means to be involved in the advocacy of inclusion and diversity among, within a city municipality. So there is a little bit more of, I suppose, a different standard for this group than there is for other city commissions, simply because of the nature of this group and what the targeted goals will be. So that's where the support and guidance comes in.
Got it. And yeah, because I was in and out of that final stretch of the conversation, I just wanted to make sure the support wasn't administrative.
Oh, no. No, not at all.
Great, thank you, Daisy. So I think we'll move on now to item B, which is discussion of the outreach plan for reappraisal. And Angela, I believe you'll be kicking this off.
Sure, I can absolutely help with that. The assessors were not able to join us for this item tonight, but Ted Nelson emailed the attached outreach plan for the reappraisal. The reappraisal is set to begin at the beginning of July, which will be inspection and revaluation to fair market value for all properties within the city of Winooski. According to Ted's timeline, they anticipate starting to do some of the initial legwork in mid-May, with initial communications going out to the community in mid-June, letting know that people will be coming out starting in July to do home inspections. This was something that was requested by the mayor. The reappraisal contract is already awarded. It was awarded last spring, and the people who are doing our reappraisal are the people who do our regular annual assessing work.
Thank you, Angela. So the item here is really around the timeline for different communications and steps that our community will start experiencing as we go through the reappraisal process, as outlined, and not the reappraisal process itself. Are there any questions or comments from councilors?
I do have some questions, yes.
Go ahead, Finn.
So for clarification, organize office staff, organize appraisal staff, is that all the contractor? Or does that involve our city staff?
So item number 1, organizing office staff, is city staff side. So the city is providing administrative support for this contract, and that was outlined in the contract. This is likely going to be somebody from the clerk's office or a combination of efforts from all of the people in the clerk's office to schedule appointments for the assessors when they are in the city.
And what's since I don't have that contract in front of me, can you remind me what the estimated labor hours for city staff were?
I don't know that there was specified hours in the contract, just support, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of people calling with questions about the reappraisal that staff would need to respond to in addition. So this is something that was done by staff in the 2007 reappraisal previously, which was also completed by the appraisal company.
And how many of our current staff were here for the previous appraisal?
One of the current clerks was there, and I was there when the last reappraisal was completed. So
okay.
We have a couple of people who will be involved that were here for the last one.
Okay. And are there, since it's been a while, are there best practices or anything that we can utilize from other municipalities that have done the appraisal process recently?
So a lot of the appraisal work is done according to standards that are set by the assessing world in terms of how they evaluate property. I do intend, as the finance director for the city, to monitor valuations for standard deviations to make sure that they're being consistently applied, and that anything that is off of the median is explainable either by permits or disrepair or other major events. So we do plan on monitoring the valuations as they come through, just to make sure there's no bias in the valuations.
I know you're on top of it.
Working on it.
In anticipation of an influx of questions and phone calls, is there like a frequently asked questions webpage that Paul is putting together or directing folks to, or is it just going to be the main city phone line that you're going to direct call these questions specific to this topic to? I guess just thinking about streamlining and funneling.
I don't think any sort of webpage had been proposed, but it looks like Paul's got his hand raised. He may have something in the works already. Paul?
Okay.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Councilor Bryn. Yeah, that would be very easy to include in the current initiatives tab on the website. We can add that in very easily. Just add a citywide reappraisal. We'll include the phone number, and then if we need either an easily remember something people can remember pretty easily, like an alias or something for an email, we can set something like that up too, pretty easy.
Okay, and then. I don't know if we've done this before. I wonder if there could be a section that tackles questions about how appraisals may impact renters. I know that there's no one size fits all, but even just having something that says basically have a conversation with your landlord, essentially, or just question, I would anticipate, since we do have a high population that do rent in Winooski, that it might be nice to have a place to point to for at least clarification on what the city's role is with that.
Deputy Mayor, I just have a question for Bryn. Are you thinking about impacts during the appraisal? Like, for example, having someone in the apartment, or are you thinking about impacts after?
I guess I mean, that's an excellent question. I guess I would see it throughout the process of, you know, what does this mean for me? And, you know, how can I learn more about it?
Right.
So.
I'm sure we can put something together.
Yeah, from a frequently asked questions standpoint, it would be super easy to add that in just to a bulleted list or something. It's actually a really good point.
And we may need to include in the notification to property owners that if they are a landlord, that they are needing to notify tenants. This process is going on.
Thank you, Bryn. Those are great suggestions. Other comments, questions, ideas from councilors on the outreach process?
I just wonder if there have been thoughts about any possible information sessions or anything like that. Like, I've been hearing from my neighbors already who have heard rumblings of an appraisal, and it kind of, given what happened in Burlington recently, it kind of sends people into a slight place of fear. So I see that there's an icebreaker, but I wonder if sending the icebreaker will just spur more questions. So I don't know if maybe setting something up formal to kind of hopefully get in front of alleviating a ton of phone calls coming into City Hall might be something that staff would be interested in or facilitating.
I can absolutely talk to the assessors about that. I don't have a problem answering questions for people. Whenever I've spoken to somebody who's been under the assumption that the reappraisal means that their taxes go up, and I explain that that is not the intent. The intent is that the tax rate will actually decrease and your taxes will only go up if your home value has increased at a higher rate than the majority of the community. So hopefully we can come up with a way to explain this to the community so that it's understood that this is not trying to be a cash grab. Your tax rate is not going to stay the same and your tax bill is not going to jump dramatically because it's going up to the fair market value.
I guess since we do highly value, sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Okay. I don't know if I don't know the best way to go about this, but something to consider would be to have either the consultant city staff or the city liaisons to the commissions basically share that as an agenda item in the upcoming commission meetings. Since a lot of the commissions are representatives from that share with other members of the community and in a way can end up help being a resource and dispelling some fears and also being a conduit for questions.
I do wonder about if so we don't currently have a staff member for our housing commission, and because the people see this as tied into their housing, so just thinking about that additional piece of it too. I know there's a lot of housing concerns right now, so this is really hard not to have a staff member supporting this. And I don't know how much Heather or Heather's role would support you, Angela, and the rest of the staff. But I don't know, I guess feel like I want to acknowledge that as well.
And from my recollection, because the contract does include a dedication of city staff time, that was time that was already planned to fall on you, Angela, and the clerk's office? Is that correct?
That is generally going to be the majority of staff time, was clerk's office time and my time to work through any needed issues. While we may not have a staff liaison for the Housing Commission directly, this could also fall under the Finance Commission. So we have a meeting for April 12th that we could start discussing this.
Any other questions or suggestions from counselors?
Probably more than you want.
And before I'm going to come back to you, Angela, but I want to see if there's any comments or questions from members of the public on the appraisal outreach. So, Angela, is there any other feedback that would be helpful to you or other staff from council on this outreach plan?
No, I've made some notes about doing some more public outreach about the reappraisal process and what it actually is. And I think that that's definitely something that we can do as staff. I think that alleviating the fear about what this is, particularly with the very big publicity that happened from the Burlington reappraisal is something that we should do proactively and make sure that people understand that's not our intent to have happen here, that we don't assess our commercial properties the same way.
And along those lines, I might suggest that because it has been a moment since we have last discussed reappraisal as a larger concept in the city, that having, if there is a chance for our appraisers to join us at a future city council meeting to go through the process and what people can expect, that would be something we can point folks to who have questions. So it'd be nice to see that come to a future meeting to revisit.
We are extremely lucky with the reappraisal person who has been assigned for this project from Vermont Appraisal Company. It is actually a former city employee, Courtney Brown, who was with the Code Enforcement Office. So she's going to be the lead on doing those inspections and reappraisal work here. So
great.
Extremely lucky.
Familiarity already. Wonderful. Well, if there's nothing else, we can move on to our next agenda item. Looks like we're good to do that. So next we'll move on to item C, an ARPA update, American Rescue Plan Act update with Angela.
Thank you. So this is actually very good news. The Treasury Department issued the final rule regarding our $2.19 million worth of ARPA money in January. As part of that final rule, the Treasury Department has created a standard allowance of revenue loss in the amount of $10 million. The guidance that we have received from Vermont League of Cities and Towns is to elect revenue loss. It gives us the most flexibility in spending our money. In addition, we have received guidance from Sullivan and Powers, who is a former auditor of the city of Winooski, that our existing policies state we use most restrictive funds first, and a grant is considered more restrictive than our general fund dollars. And since you can use revenue loss for any government expenditure, we will spend ARPA money for our regular budget and create a reserve pot of general fund dollars equal to the amount of our ARPA award, which allows us to then assign that to things that would not previously have been allowed under ARPA, including trust funds, reserve funds, and other things that were a little more questionable, because we had talked about potentially funding sources for Housing Trust Fund, which would not have been allowable with ARPA funding, but could be now based on this change. So we'll be coming to you at the next meeting for the election of ARPA dollars as revenue loss. That will meet our grant obligations in terms of reporting. And then all of the future assignment of the money will be reserve assignments from general fund dollars created due to the use of this grant.
Thanks for that overview and the helpful memo accompanying it. So this is really a preview of a decision that we will have to make next meeting. So this is a chance to just, if you have any questions or concerns about this, not concerns, questions or clarifications that you want to address now or have brought to our next meeting where we do. I think there is a bit of a time component to this, so being able to be prepared for the discussion next week or in 2 weeks. Any questions from councilors?
No questions. It's good news.
I guess,
Yeah,
an initial question that comes to mind is, with the reserves, I would imagine that there are not going to be timelines around that, the way there would be with ARPA funds.
That's correct.
But does having too much of an open window prevent us from taking advantage of some short-term opportunities?
I don't think having the extended window would necessarily preclude us from taking short-term actions. We can absolutely still do that. It just opens it up in case there is not the need. We are seeing at this point only 2 applications for the business relief grant program. Anticipating receiving more. But some of the things that we've assigned funding to thus far have not seen the level of interest that we were anticipating. So having a little bit of extra time, if we're not going to see money flying out the door the way we were expecting to, is useful, especially if we need time to build a program from scratch to address some concerns that are coming out of the survey.
Yep. Thank you for that. I guess a follow-up question I have is, when will we see the results of the survey, the public survey?
I'm actually hoping that Yaz is at her computer. I believe that she was going to be working to compile the responses. I have seen all of the responses and happy to go through those with the Finance Commission to process that information a little bit, but
there's actually, I'm working with Paul, our communications director, and the school and some community partners as well to do a push for the surveys to be collected in different areas and in different ways, also in addition to the online version. So that push isn't actually going to happen until May. We are in the process of developing a plan for outreach for that. Working with our community partners for interpretation, working with our community partners for just general application help. So you will see towards the end of this month, we will be able to give you an update on what that plan looks like. We're really trying to make sure that we give everyone the opportunity to utilize the survey and give us their input for such an important topic. And so we're trying to take our time to make sure we do that thoughtfully and completely. So the compiling of the data isn't going to happen probably until early June.
Okay, I have, thank you for the summary of that and the update. I have heard some initial feedback that the form feels restrictive. And so in response, I've provided the recommendation to fill it out however you feel like you need to and not feel constrained by the formatting, since there is like a space for just narrative, to basically just fill that in however the respondent feels the need to. So just wanted to pass that along too, but I'm glad that staff is taking a little bit more time, and we'll be doing some additional outreach. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions on the need to do a revenue loss finding related to the timelines and uses of the funds that we'll be just looking at in the 18th?
I'd like to just add a couple of things. It's interesting that you've heard that the survey is restrictive. We're getting some really creative responses, which is great. So I'm sorry that people did feel that way, but we are getting creative responses. We're not under a deadline. The fact that the deadlines have been eliminated by this rule is huge. We do want to update you more on the rule at the next meeting. And what it does allow you to do is to leverage the funding. So there are all sorts of grants out there, and now this can count toward federal grants. And so we can look at matching, especially for housing. So if you want to spend $500,000, just make it $1 million. So just my recommendation is just take your time, be strategic, because you can you should be able to double your money, basically.
I think to that point, I guess I don't want to see this discussion become about what we might use ARPA funds or how we make those decisions for how to use ARPA funds. This discussion should really focus on, we have to make this determination in order to gain this flexibility next meeting. So I think
our first report where I need to make this election is due by April 30th.
Yes, and yes, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent. I was just trying to support the decision to approve this method of accounting.
Yeah, and I think it all rolls up to me is that I think my reservations are in some, like, there's pros and cons with it. I think overall it's really beneficial. And I think my concern is the loss of some of the urgency might also lose some of the opportunity. So that's how all my line of questioning is rolling up into this overall question that's being asked in front of us right now.
I honestly think that staff still feels an urgency to address the challenges that are being experienced in the community. While this is a little bit of a weight off of our shoulders in terms of getting the last dollar out the door, I think that we are realizing that there is a need in the community among a number of different areas that we need to address in the short term. That's definitely not off of our radar.
Okay. Thank you, Angela.
Any other comments or questions from councilors or members of the public on this item?
No, I think it's really exciting for exactly Wendy said. This will give us, sounds like it will give us the freedom to actually help some of the people and some of the issues that most need help that we were blocked from before. And I can appreciate making sure we still have that urgency, but it sounds like we're going to meet some urgent need. This might allow us to meet some urgent needs that we might be scrambling to meet otherwise.
And I think being able to think about programs that may need to run past 2024 or 2026 in order to meet those needs properly. We can actually think more structurally and systematically. So
rather than spending as much money as possible, but once we can potentially spread this out over a longer duration.
No. Yeah.
Wait, go ahead, sorry, Aurora.
I was just going to say, and this aspect of being able to get more community feedback feels so important that now we really can reach out to folks and not feel like, oh my gosh, we just have to, you said, Angela, throw as much money as possible at things that might not even be the most needs.
All right, I think your screen is very small, so I think we're, unless Thomas, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I did not. Very excited.
Great. Anything else you need from us, Angela, on this item?
Nope, it'll just be coming back for the next time for that authorization to elect revenue loss, and we will do grant funding expenditures on just regular business, potentially with a transfer to the on-street meters fund, which actually did experience revenue loss last season. So those are going to be our recommendations for the next time.
Great, I look forward to seeing those recommendations on the 18th. Well, don't go too far. Next up, we have item D, introduction of an ordinance update, chapter 28 fees. This is just for introduction, and there was an update to this agenda. So for folks who may be watching at home, if you looked at the agenda before the beginning of the week, there was an additional document added, as I understand it. So do take another look, and I will turn it over to you, Angela.
Sure. So this is a routine update of Chapter 28 of the Winooski City Ordinances, which is our fee chapter. This was initially proposed by Jenny Willingham, the city clerk, because the city has been historically undercharging for our marriage licenses. There's supposed to be a $10 fee that we charge locally. So a $60 fee total, 50 going to the state, 10 for the city, and then an additional 10 for a certified copy. We have historically just charged 60, including the certified copy. With that change being proposed and opening up the chapter, I brought this to the entire leadership team for any other fee changes that people wanted to request. Because the process to change an ordinance is so long, let's do any changes that need to be made all at once. So the additional changes that were proposed were brought by Eric Vorwald and John Rauscher. Eric included a new section 28.07 for public records request fees. This is to go along with the policy that council adopted at a recent meeting. This is in alignment with state records charges. Eric did a bunch of research before proposing these changes. In addition, he has proposed changes to his zoning fees to better recoup costs for advertising and to clarify some confusion that people were having around what permits were required. And then John Rauscher has proposed changes for similar reasons to make sure we recoup costs for administrative work done on permits and to clarify what permits are required for new development.
Great, thank you, Angela. I love combining multiple changes on this. It does take some effort to pass a fee ordinance change. So are there any questions or comments from councilors?
I guess I just wonder about the additional collection of $10 for a marriage license. I'm just wondering if getting married is already so expensive. So I'm wondering, is it really a benefit to the city to add an extra fee?
It actually is by statute,
Okay.
actually. So when I started, I was noticing that when I was running reports that we were off because we submit $50 to the state for each marriage license. And this would be a uniform fee. The state has published documents called Getting Married in Vermont. Everything is specifying that it's $60 plus $10 for an additional certified copy. Most couples do proceed with that to get the certified copy. So our administrative fee over the years has just we have not collected on it.
Yep.
So this is just to be bringing in line with every other city and
Okay.
town in Vermont.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair.
And this won't be the last time that we see this fee ordinance. So if there are other questions that do arise as you start reviewing the very specific lines, we'll have time for that. Are there any other items folks wanted to raise at this time?
I don't know if it covers it. I'm looking at section 28.07 for the public records requests. It's $1 per page. Is that just the nuance of it? Is it per side or is it double-sided?
Per side.
Okay. I don't know if it would be beneficial to add that clarification in there or if that's overkill. Just so that it's consistent and well understood.
Yeah.
I can add per one-sided page. That's not a substantive change.
Any other comments or questions you wanted to pursue right now? Members of the council? Any comments from members of the public? Or questions? All right, a lot to digest here in terms of how things are shifting around. So definitely would look forward to having another opportunity to review this in discussion or in the process as we move through the ordinance update. So, and hearing no other discussion, I think we can move on to the next item. Councilor Oakley, did you have something else you wanted to raise? Again, the window is small. I can't really see if you were starting to speak and I cut you off, that's all.
Are you asking a city staff or the council?
You, Councilor Oakley, if it looked like maybe you were going to say something.
I was just thinking about whether or not I was gonna table it, but since you're asking, whether or not an appeal of an appraisal would fall under the decision of a zoning administrator, or if that is not captured in what we're looking at right now.
Under public records request?
So section 28.11, zoning and land development, or, so general question, do we have a fee for appealing appraisals? So,
There is no fee for appealing an appraisal.
okay. All right, that answers the question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we will move to item E, which is a discussion and potential approval of a raised grant application for Main Street revitalization and the Winooski Burlington Bridge. So to introduce this item, which we have talked about before, I'll pass it to you, John.
Great, thank you. So this is a request to submit a grant for the acronym is Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, aka RAISE. They try really hard to get those acronyms in. So this is a really competitive national grant. For example, last year, I think they had 10 billion in requests for 1 billion worth of funds. So it is a bit of a long shot, but we've had positive reviews from USDOT in the past on the Main Street project. So in your packet, there's an overview memo describing the projects and the grant. Last year's raised narrative for the Main Street project, 2 letters of support for each of the 2 projects, and the grant authorization form. So just to give you a quick overview. So the 2 proposed projects this year are the Main Street grant. So this will be the 4th time we've submitted an application for this grant. And then the other project it'll be a first-time submission. So this is the Winooski Burlington Bridge. So the bridge that crosses the Winooski River and is shared with Burlington. So starting with Main Street first, the grant application, similar to last year, we're proposing to submit a grant for the general fund streetscape scope. So this is the work that's currently there's not a large grant funding component. A lot of for example, the water resources work, we have a pretty large USDA grant and low interest loan. So we're trying to find some additional funding to cover that general fund streetscape scope. So last year we're sort of sticking with the roughly the same sort of mix in grant funding requests as we did last year. So approximately a $7 million grant request. There is a 20% match minimum. So we've got roughly about $10.4 million in work there with that streetscape scope, and that's minus some other existing grants that we have. And this, just a quick update. So with Main Street, we are starting to moving into putting this project out to bid advertisement. So hopefully within next month or 2, you're going to see that come in front of you. We're just wrapping up some of the right-of-way requests now. So we've got roughly 50 of the 65 needed of the easements. So we're getting really close to getting to that bid advertisement phase. So we, this will probably be the last shot at this grant before we hopefully get into construction, assuming we don't get any crazy bid numbers coming back to us. But that's sort of the scope for Main Street. And then the Winooski Bridge, that's a new one for this year. So that was really triggered by VTrans. So they initiated the discussion with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and they are actually taking the lead on this grant. And they've hired a consultant, McFarland Johnson, who did the original scoping study that was done back in 2018. So that scoping study, I put a link in the memo, but basically what that is a very high level concept of what the bridge replacement would look like. So there's a lot of stakeholders and public feedback that goes into that scoping study. And then they go through a whole alternatives analysis, which the deputy mayor may have been a part of that. I know the mayor was part of that process back in 2018. But so ultimately what came out of that scoping study was a full replacement, or I should say the recommended option out of that scoping study was a full replacement of the bridge, which increases the width to accommodate two 12-foot multi-use lanes on either side. So that's really going to add a lot of bike ped accommodations that bridge really needs. So besides it being, 92 years old and sort of entering at the end of its useful life, it really doesn't work for daily transportation modes right now either. So the proposed project to replace the bridge, in 2018 monies, it was about 18 to 23 million. Based on a current estimate that was just done the other day by the consultant, it's starting to look more around 30 million for that project. So the grant request will be for the full 30 million, and the request will be for 100% federal share. So, i.e., no local match request is what the grant fund will be for. So we'll see. I honestly don't know which project would rank higher because they're both very different. One's very heavy infrastructure, a lot of with the bridge and very much a collaborative project with VTrans and Burlington and CCRPC. But it's really not, there's no project readiness there yet. So that's where Main Street has sort of an edge. Both have, some pretty good bike ped components to them. And obviously we've submitted a few more times. And with the Main Street project, and we've gotten some feedback from USDOT on how to improve the grant application. So it is a little interesting this year because we do have two in the mix. We spoke with USDOT about that. An applicant can submit up to 3 grant requests. They did not have any concern with us, submitting those 2 applications. And like I said, it is a super competitive grant. So it's sort of a bit like, buying a lottery ticket. If we put 2 in, maybe we will get 1, but it's, it is a long shot for both of these. So for tonight, the ask is, 2, it's a request to submit the grants. And then the other ask is there's 2 letters of support in your packet for each project for signature. So with that, I'll stop if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, John. Any questions from members of council?
Yeah, I have some questions. The first one, you said the bridge was 90 years old and it's nearing the end of its life expectancy. Is it a 100-year life expectancy?
Yeah, so typically I'll say the engineering useful life is 100 years, but most times if it's, the structure's maintained and it's inspected, it will last beyond that 100-year life expectancy. So there's no structural concerns with the bridge now. So VTrans does inspect it. I think it's biannually, but the concerns right now is the bridge deck that the structural steel sits on. That is really starting to get to the end of its useful life. So within the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to have to be some investment in that decking. So that's, it doesn't, structurally it's okay, but large components of that bridge are going to have to get rehab if it's going to go much beyond 100 years.
And do we have any cost estimates of that for the work that would be needed if we weren't able to replace the bridge?
Yes, I don't remember what just the bridge deck replacement cost was. I'd have to get back on that one, but we do have some cost estimates at work. Yeah.
And then as far as submitting the grant itself and letters of support, has the city seek letters of support for the grants from the congressional delegation at all?
Yep. So that was actually on my to-do list today. We have in the past always reached out to the delegation to get letters of support. So we typically reach out to Welch's office, Sanders' office, and Leahy's office to get those. And I've also already reached out to the usual stakeholders like Winooski School District, CCRPC, downtown Winooski. I'm also going to reach out to some of the bike ped groups like Local Motion and CATMA, for example. So, yeah, we have our usual suspects that we hit up for those letters of support.
Awesome, thank you.
Thomas, other questions from folks in chambers?
When did they announce the awardees?
So I think it's it's like mid-August they announce the awards.
Okay.
Yep, and just to give you some dates too, so the funding obligation is for if we received an award, the funding obligation, i.e. like you have to contract with someone by 2026 is the date for having a contract in place. And then you have to expend all the funds by 2031. Not an issue for Main Street really, but the bridge would be, we've had a lot of discussions with V-Trans on that because it's, that's a quick timeline for a bridge replacement, especially starting with really concept plans at this point. So V-Trans has, their intent would be to do sort of probably look at doing a design build type contract to meet those timelines.
Are there other questions from councilors?
Not a question, but a very small edit on the Winooski River Bridge letter of support. I noticed in the last sentence in the first paragraph, I think there's just a repeat of replace. So it says connection to replace the existing restrictive bridge and replace it. So I think replace the existing bridge with a new. So you can cross out and replace an it.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
No worries.
Thank you, Councilor Hurd. So with that, do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? John, do you need separate motions on these items since they will be part of two different applications?
That is a good question. Probably to be safe, yes. Yeah.
Great. Well, hearing that there's no other discussion, I think at this point, feel free to jump in if there is. I think we would be looking first for a motion to authorize a public works director to submit a raise grant application for the Main Street revitalization project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next up, we'd be looking for a motion to authorize the Public Works Director to submit a raised grant for the Winooski Burlington Bridge project in coordination with V-Trans, City of Burlington, and the CCRPC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And finally, be looking for a motion to authorize the mayor to sign letters of support for both projects.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All three motions carry. I don't think I said it the first two times. So I think you have your ability to go forward, John.
So,
Thank you. And best of luck. I hope we hear good news in August. That brings us to the end of our regular items. We do have 3 executive session items warned for this council meeting. We have those listed in the agenda. The first is an executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313-2, the negotiation of real estate purchase or lease options related to Lot 7D Abernathy Way. I'm first seeking a motion to find that person to state statute VSA 313-2 that discussion of this topic in the public would put the city at a disadvantage, and so it should be discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I'm seeking a motion to enter into executive session, inviting John Rauscher, Wendy Harrison, and Angela Aldieri.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now move to executive session. This line will stay open. Counselors and staff will gather in a different physical space. We will return to this line to open the following executive sessions, and no other business than that covered by the executive session will be discussed, and we'll return here purely to move between executive sessions and then adjourn. So I will see you all in a moment. Sorry, swing and a miss. We did not actually go into executive session. I wanted to invite some additional people. So we're going to redo both motions. Make sure I have the agenda up so I have all the right things to say. All right, so I am seeking a motion to find that pursuant to state statute VSA 313-2, the negotiation of real estate purchase or lease options related to the Lot 7D, that discussion of this topic in public would put the city at a disadvantage and so should be discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'm further seeking a motion to enter into executive session, inviting John Rauscher, Angela Aldieri, Wendy Harrison, Bill Niquette, and Doug Nettie to join us.
So moved.
Second.
All those, motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will convene an executive session to discuss this topic and nothing else. We will come back to this Zoom line purely, or this meeting purely to move to next executive sessions. I'll see you all in a second. All right, welcome back, everybody. We have now reached item C in our sections 8 of our agenda. This is another executive session. So I would entertain, I'm seeking a motion to find that pursuant to state statute VSA to 1 VSA 313-3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, that having this discussion in public session would disadvantage the city and so should be discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And furthermore, I'm seeking a motion to enter into executive session, inviting Wendy Harrison, John Rauscher, and Angela Aldieri to join us.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now move into executive session. We will return to this meeting and, if needed, make a final decision in open meeting and explain the reasons for that final decision if needed, or adjourn the meeting. But we'll discuss no other business than this during the executive session. See you in a second. Welcome back to regular session. We have no additional action to take, so we have reached the end of tonight's agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sweet. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Have a lovely night, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.